Uh, the title for today's session is Adho Loka, or Lower Planetary System. This is like almost like the last part of the entire planetary system series. We started with this session titled Chaturdasha Bhuvana, uh, where we covered the 14 planetary systems. But that was about all 14 uh, in one session. So that was like quite surface level. So I thought of doing one session to cover the three worlds, and that was followed by Loka for upper planetary system. And then for the middle planetary system, we took about 4 weeks, 4 sessions. Um, 4 sessions for the middle planetary system. So it has been like more than a month we spent for only for that Madhya Loka part. And but today's session is more like the session on Urdhva Loka, upper planetary system, because this one also will be covering only this part for this session. But as we shall see later, even beyond, beneath the lower planetary system, there are these hellish planets. So that part is also quite lengthy. So we'll be covering that next week. So again, as we know, this is the most important unit of measurement in this Bhagavata cosmology topic. To measure distance, the unit called yojana, equal to 8 miles or approximately 13 kilometers. And in our session for last week we had this last part on Madhya Loka. That was Madhya Loka 4. So we actually ended with this verse from chapter 23 of the 5th canto of Bhagavatam. That chapter was titled the Shishumara planetary system. So it was regarding the description of the planetary systems, beginning from the sun, moon, and all the other planets in the Antariksha space region, up to Dhruva. So when we were discussing about the Bhumandal, about Bhumandal in our Madhya Loka series, so we saw that this Bhumandal surface, actually that Bhumandal surface was composed of the Saptadvipa regions, with the Sumeru mountain in the center, the centermost part. We have the Sumeru mountain on Jambudvipa, and then surrounded by the saltwater ocean and all the other Saptadvipas. And then even beyond Saptadvipa, we saw that there's this Loka mountain, and that Loka mountain separated the Bhumandal into two divisions. Like one within the Loka mountain was the region which was inhabitable, because only that part was covered by the sunlight. So the sunlight could not go beyond the Loka mountain. So beyond the Loka mountain, we had this Aloka Varsha. So that Aloka Varsha was it's like the uninhabitable part of the Bhumandal. So when we look at the horizontal cross section of the Bhumandal, it has been stated that the horizontal diameter, because the universal egg is like it's known as Brahmanda, the universal egg. So whether we cut it horizontally or vertically also, the measurement of the diameter is the same. So the horizontal diameter was estimated as 500 million yojanas. So the radius from the center point where Mount Sumeru was located, from the center point to the circumference of the Brahmanda was about 250 million yojanas. So these 250 million yojanas was divided in between by the Loka mountain. So that part was about 125 million yojanas. So 125 plus 125, the radius was 250 million yojanas. So the horizontal diameter is about 500 million yojanas. That is for the horizontal diameter. But we also saw from last week's session in this last chapter and the last verse of this last chapter regarding the Madhya Loka, it was explained that according to estimates by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he has made this estimation about the vertical diameter of the Brahmanda. Actually, the horizontal diameter, it has been described much earlier in earlier chapters, like because this entire series on Madhya Loka was it actually started from chapter 16 of the fifth canto. So we saw that actually when we covered the topics regarding the Shaptadvipas also, we saw how the horizontal diameter was calculated. But in this purport, it explains regarding the vertical diameters estimation. So it was concluded that even the vertical diameter is also about 500 million yojanas. Because here it's talking about the covering of the universe. Then because in Jambudvipa, you have the Earth planet, and then above Earth is the sun, then above the sun is the moon, and all the other planets up to Dhruva Loka. And then beyond Dhruva Loka, we have the upper planetary systems, like Swarga Loka, Marjana Tapa Satya, up to the covering on top, like the roof. So this from the position of the Earth in Jambudvipa, if it's measured vertically, it's like the vertical radius. So underneath that, we have the lower planetary systems. So underneath the Bhumandal are these 7 lower planetary systems. Then beneath the lower planetary systems, Sheshanag is holding this Bhumandal. And then Sheshanag is also lying on the Garbhodaka ocean. So the ocean's depth is also mentioned here. So when we sum up all these vertical distances, we get the vertical diameter, which is also equal to the horizontal diameter. That is 500 million yojanas. So this is just to refresh and just like a recap, because we need to know from where these lower planetary systems actually start. We have been covering about Madhya Loka, especially the Bhumandal region until now. But these lower planetary systems are actually in the subterranean region underneath Bhumandal. So this is an allegorical illustration which explains about the Brahmanda and the Bhumandal. So this Brahmanda is the universal egg. And the upper planetary systems are like the Satyaloka is located on top of this lotus flower. So Bhumandal is the surface of this lotus leaf, and the 7 lower planetary systems, they are located within the depth of this leaf. So underneath the 7th the 7th Patal Loka, actually even Patal Loka is actually the lowest of the lower planetary systems. But even underneath Patal Loka, we have the 28 hellish planets. So we'll be seeing that in next week's session. So the hellish planets are like even below Patal Loka. They are like the hellish planets are there in the lowest region of Patal Loka. But all the 7 lower planets are located within the depth of this leaf. So underneath the leaf, we have the Garbhotra ocean. So actually, Sheshnag is like supporting this lotus. So this is another clearer illustration. Previously, we saw that lotus illustration is like an allegorical illustration, but this is a more direct representation. So we have already seen regarding these Uldo Lokas. And when we look at the middle region, that is Madhya Loka, so we have the Mount Sumeru on Jambudweep, surrounded by the Saptadvipas. So we have seen this part also in detail, but underneath the Bhuloka, we have the 7 lower planetary systems. So just to refresh a bit, because we have been covering this Madhya Loka part for over a month now, because we had like 4 sessions. So just to refresh regarding the overall representation of the 14 planetary systems. The 14 planetary systems, or these 3 divisions, like upper, middle, and lower parts, have been described as representing the Virat Rupa of the Supreme Lord. So this we have actually seen earlier, much earlier in our sessions related to even there was one session titled Virat Rupa. So this is just to refresh the overview of how these planetary systems have been described earlier. So in the second canto, first chapter, Shukadev Goswami is explaining to Parikshit Maharaj in this first chapter. He says persons who have realized it have studied that the planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the universal Lord, and the heels and the toes are the Rasatala planets, the ankles are the Mahatala planets, and his shanks constitute the Talatala planets. The universe is divided into 14 planetary systems. 7 planetary systems called Bhurbhusva, Mar, Jana, Tapas, Satya are upward planetary systems, one above the other. There are also 7 planetary systems downward, known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala, gradually, one below the other. In this verse, the description begins from the bottom because it is in the line of devotion that the Lord's bodily descriptions should begin from his feet. Shukadev Goswami is a recognized devotee of the Lord, and he is exactly correct in the description. So the reason why I'm explaining this part is because for over a month now, we were like stuck in the Madhya Loka. So that part itself was very in-depth. So just to regain an overview before we proceed to the lower planetary systems. So I just want to recap this basic stuff. And it's also mentioned here that the description by Sukadev Goswami starts from the feet. And if I'm not mistaken, even in Nectar of Devotion, that's been mentioned regarding deity worship, that even when we worship the deity, we should always start from the feet and look at the deity upwards. So here, even Sukadev Goswami is describing that the feet of the Lord represents Patala, and he's moving upwards. Then in the same chapter, that is chapter 1 of second canto, verse 26, Sukadev Goswami continues, persons who have realized it have studied that the planets known as Patala constitute the bottom of the feet, the universal lord, and the heels and the toes are the Rasatala planets. The ankles are the Mahatala planets, and his hands constitute the Talatala planets. The knees are the planetary system of the Sutala, and the two thighs are Vitala and Atala. So, when we saw earlier in the earlier illustration, we saw Atala below the middle region, below Madhya Loka, we saw Atala, then Vitala, Sutala, like that. But here, Shukadeva Goswami's description is like in reverse. He's starting from Patala upwards to describe the Virat Rupa of the Supreme Lord. Then in second canto, chapter 5, there's this conversation between Brahma and Narada Muni. So Brahma is also explaining about the same subject matter to Narada Muni, but he's also explaining something similar. But actually, this chapter 5 of the second canto is like it's kind of more detailed compared to the conversation between Shukadeva Goswami and Parishit Maharaj. So in this verse, Brahma is telling Narada, know from me that there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist. The second, Vitala, is situated on the thighs. The third, Sutala, on the knees. The fourth, Talatala, on the shanks. The fifth, Mahatala, on the ankles. The sixth, Rasatala, on the upper portion of the feet. And the seventh, Patala, on the soles of the feet. Thus, the Virat form of the Lord is full of all planetary systems. So here, Brahma is actually describing in the default arrangement, like from Atala to Patala. But in this verse is regarding the lower planetary systems. And also Brahma continues, others may divide the whole planetary system into 3 divisions, namely the lower planetary systems on the legs up to Earth, the middle planetary systems on the navel, and the upper planetary systems, Loka, from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality. So the description of the Virat Rupa is either like explaining every body part to be representing one specific planet, or it is also there's also this general description where the entire Virat Rupa is simply divided into 3 parts, 3 main parts. So like it's explained here that the lower body represents the lower planetary systems, the middle portion represents the middle planetary systems, and the upper part of the body represents the upper planetary systems. So these are the descriptions of the Virat Rupa, which represent the 14 planetary systems. And even from last week's session, we saw that in the last chapter of last week, we saw regarding this Shishumara planetary system. Actually, it was like we saw this divine dolphin called the Shishumara. So we saw how the arrangement of the planets were according to the shape of a dolphin. So even that is also regarded as one of the Virat Rupa of the Supreme Lord, because since all those planets, including Dhruva Loka, are situated in the Antariksha part, so that Antariksha space is actually visible from our Earth planet. So the yogis meditate on the Shishumara representation, or the Shishumara Rupa of the Supreme Lord. So that is another type of Virat Rupa. So so far, just to recap regarding the previous general parts. So now we'll look at the specific portion of today's session regarding the description of the lower planetary systems. This chapter on lower planetary system is there in the 5th canto, chapter 24. So it the description starts from the 7th verse. Here Shukadeva Goswami explains, my dear king, beneath this earth are 7 other planets known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. I have already explained the situation of the planetary systems of Earth. The width and length of the 7 lower planetary systems are calculated to be exactly the same as those of Earth. So beneath the Earth are these 7 uh, planetary systems. So they are also known as the subterranean planets. In these 7 planetary systems, which are also known as the subterranean heavens, below Swarga, there are very beautiful houses, gardens, and places of sense enjoyment, which are even more opulent than those in the higher planets because the demons have a very high standard of sensual pleasure, wealth, and influence. Most of the residents of these planets, who are known as Daityas, Danavas, and Nagas, live as householders. Their wives, children, friends, and society are all fully engaged in illusory material happiness. So, normally the general understanding is that those who are demoniac, or later, as we shall see, even from the Gita, there's this description regarding the modes of material nature. Even in that chapter, chapter 14 of the Gita, it is stated that uh, people like, especially like us human beings who have been born in this planet Earth, in this birth, if we cultivate a certain mode, like the mode of goodness, or if we actually can transcend even the mode of goodness towards pure goodness or Shuddha Sattva, so then uh, we can elevate ourselves to the spiritual world beyond the material universe. But if we can only cultivate the mode of goodness, then we will end up in still the upper planetary system, but still within this material universe. So maximum we might become the next Brahma, for example. But even by becoming Brahma, uh, even for that we have to like cultivate 100% goodness. So to actually escape from this material universe, we have to cultivate even beyond goodness, that is pure goodness. However, for those who are stuck in the mode of passion, if we are like, because for human beings, the default setting is that we are predominantly in the mode of passion. So that's why we have been born in this Earth planet as human beings. Uh, but it is entirely up to us whether we want to elevate ourselves upwards or degrade further downwards. Um, but although even for those who are even for those who degrade themselves, and if they land in the lower planetary systems, even those are not actually the, it's not like they are going to hell, because hell is the place where punishment takes place. So that is a separate chapter that we will see next week. But regarding these lower planetary systems, they are actually known as Bila Swarga. Uh, as we have seen from our previous sessions, there are actually 3 types of Swargas, just like the 3 divisions of these worlds: Divya Swarga, Bhauma Swarga, and Bila Swarga. Divya Swarga is the heavenly planets that are there in Loka in the upper planetary system. Bhauma Swarga refers to the uh, heavenly regions within the Madhya Loka. So, as we have also seen that in Jambudvipa there are 9 Varshas, but out of the 9 Varshas, only Bharata Varsha is known as the land of fruitive activity or Karma Bhumi. Apart from Bharata Varsha, the remaining 8 Varshas are the Bhauma Swarga regions, meaning they are like heaven on earth. So we are all in the Bharatavarsha region. So beyond the Bharatavarsha, in other Varshas like Kim Purusha Varsha or Uttarakulu Varsha are the uh, Bhauma regions. So even within this middle uh, middle division of the world, there are heavenly regions. And uh, below the Madhya Loka, we have the subterranean heavenly planets known as Bila Swarga. So these 7 lower planetary systems are also heavenly planets in one sense because they are rich with material opulence. There are 2 types of opulence that we have to focus on. One is, I mean, not to say focus, we have to like distinguish between these 2 types of opulences. One is material opulence, another one is spiritual opulence. Uh, what truly matters is how much spiritual opulence we can accumulate during our lifetime, because the material opulence is temporary, and it will only ensure that we are caught within this material universe forever. So for those who end up in the lower planetary systems in these Bila Swarga regions, they are known as Bila Swarga because they are the subterranean heavenly planets in which there is a lot of uh, material opulence, which provide for much greater sense enjoyment. It is also described that these Bila Swarga regions are even more materially opulent than the heavenly, the Divya Swarga, which are there in the Swargaloka. The sense enjoyment of the demigods is sometimes disturbed, but the residents of these planets enjoy life without disturbances. Thus, they are understood to be very attached to illusory happiness. So here, it is said that there's this comparison between the demigods in the Divya Swarga and the residents of Bila Swarga. Even the demigods in Swargaloka, like Indra, even they get disturbed due to disturbances from demons. Like there are even pastimes when Indra was defeated and demons took over the heavenly planets. So for those who end up in the upper planetary system, it's quite a tricky situation actually, because even for those who end up in Swargaloka, they can enjoy a lot of material opulence, but that is, as we have seen from the Gita, especially in chapter 9, that is completely useless, because once the visa expires, we still have to return to the Madhya Loka. So it is really not worth to even think about going to Swargaloka. And even those who end up in Marjana, Tapa, or Satyaloka, even they have to continue their practice of Krishna consciousness so that they can actually be liberated from the material universe. So the difference between the upper and lower planetary system is that those who are there in the upper planetary system, they are still engaged in Krishna consciousness to further elevate themselves towards the spiritual world. But in the lower planetary system, the residents of the Bila Swarga regions, they get to enjoy a lot of material opulence, even more than the Divya Swarga. But the difference is that this having unlimited material opulence makes them completely forget God consciousness, because they are always absorbed in uh, material sense enjoyment. So that is the real curse of being trapped in the lower planetary system. If we don't utilize our human form of life in this birth, and if we end up in the lower planetary system, so it actually makes it much more challenging for us, because even for those who end up in the upper planetary systems, like the sages in Marjana, Tapa, or Satyaloka, so they at least they still get to continue their practice of Krishna consciousness to elevate themselves further towards the spiritual world. But for those who are caught in the lower planetary systems, they will always be in illusion. Uh, they are like bewildered by illusion all the time, and there's like there'll be no reversal to it. Like the abundance of material opulence and sense enjoyment in the lower planetary system is such that it makes one completely forget about God. And because of that, when there's no God consciousness, when there's no spiritual inquiry, so that leads to much further degradation. So that is the real curse of about being caught in the lower planetary system. There's a lot of scope for sense enjoyment, but it completely makes us forget the Supreme Lord. According to the statements of Prahlad Maharaj, material enjoyment is Maya Sukha, illusory enjoyment. A Vaishnava is full of anxieties for the deliverance of all living entities from such false enjoyment. Prahlad Maharaj says, Maya Sukhaya Baram Udvato Vimudan. These fools, Vimudas, are engaged in material happiness, which is surely temporary. Whether in the heavenly planets, the lower planets, or the earthly planets, people are engrossed in temporary material happiness, forgetting that in due course of time, they have to change their bodies according to the material laws and suffer the repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. Not caring what will happen in the next birth, gross materialists are simply busy enjoying during the present short span of life. A Vaishnava is always anxious to give all such bewildered materialists the real happiness of spiritual bliss. So, as mentioned here, whether in the heavenly planets, the lower planets, or the earthly planets. So, even within these three divisions, there are heavenly regions like the Divya Swarga, Bhama Swarga, and Bila Swarga. But as mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj, all these Swargas are completely useless, because as long as we are caught within this material universe, nothing really matters. So being caught in this material universe, whether it's in the Divya Swarga or Bila Swarga, it only leads to repeated Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. So the real solution is to completely get out of this material universe. But the difference is that compared to those who are there in Divya Swarga, at least those who are there in Divya Swarga, they might get the association of devotees or the advanced sages in the upper planets, like beyond Swargaloka is Marjana Tapa and even Satyaloka. So at least for those who are there in Divya Swarga, at least they might get the association of devotees, and at least they have some hope for further reformation and to cultivate Krishna consciousness more seriously, at least in their next birth. But for those who are degraded to the lower planetary systems, they have no such hope, because the situation is such that there's no chance of getting any association of devotees. At least even for us in this Earth planet, we are still lucky, and even the human beings in the Earth planet also become like it has been acknowledged by Brahma himself and all the demigods in the third canto. Towards the end of the third canto, towards the end of the first part of the third canto, it has been acknowledged by Brahma and the demigods that human beings who are born in this Earth planet are actually more fortunate than even the sages who are born in the upper planets, because we are in a more advantageous situation to elevate ourselves further straight to the spiritual world. However, compared to the middle and upper planetary systems, those who are caught in the lower planetary systems, they really have no hope or for any transformation, because the the sheer abundance of material opulence and sense enjoyment makes them completely blinded by the fact that they are also caught in this repeated birth, death, old age, and disease cycle. So that is the worst part about being trapped in the lower planetary system. In the lower planetary system, there is also a lot of enjoyment, but it further it takes all the conditioned souls much far away from Krishna consciousness, to the point where there may be no hope for any reform. So these are further descriptions regarding the Bilaswarga regions. My dear king, in the imitation heaven known as Bilaswarga, there is a great demon named Mayadanava, who is an expert artist and architect. He has constructed many brilliantly decorated cities. There are many wonderful houses, walls, gates, assembly houses, temples, yards, and temple compounds, as well as many hotels serving as residential quarters for foreigners. Houses for the leaders of these planets are constructed with the most valuable jewels, and they are always crowded with living entities known as Nagas and Asuras, as well as many pigeons, parrots, and similar birds. All in all, these imitation heavenly cities are most beautifully situated and attractively decorated. So the Bilaswarga regions are like even more attractive and materially opulent compared to even the Divya Swarga regions in the upper worlds. So these are further descriptions. So even in the subterranean heavenly planets, they also kind of resemble the Swargaloka or the Divya Swarga. Since there's no sunshine in those subterranean planets, time is not divided into days and nights, and consequently, fear produced by time does not exist. Many great serpents reside there with gems on their hoods, and the effulgence of these gems dissipates the darkness in all directions. So the situation in the lower planetary systems is such that uh, the residents are completely blinded by the opulence in those regions, to the point where they are completely oblivious to the fact that they are uh, they are actually entangled in this repeated cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Since the residents of these planets drink and bathe in juices and elixirs made from wonderful herbs, they are freed from all anxieties and physical diseases. They have no experience of gray hair, wrinkles, or invalidity. Their bodily lusters do not fade. Their perspiration does not cause a bad smell, and they are not troubled by fatigue or by lack of energy or enthusiasm due to old age. They live very auspiciously and do not fear death from anything but death's established time, which is the effulgence of the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, regardless of the amount of material opulence that is there in even in the lower planetary systems, still even the lower planetary system is part of this material universe. So, the same laws apply to all, and being conditioned souls, the bewilderment by these material opulences in the lower planetary systems will also kind of further degrade those souls towards further degradation to even lower regions. This is the defect of material existence. Everything in the subterranean heavens is very nicely arranged. They are well situated residential quarters. There is a pleasing atmosphere, and there are no bodily inconveniences or mental anxieties. But nevertheless, those who live there have to take another birth according to karma. Persons whose minds are dull cannot understand this defect of a materialistic civilization. Aiming at material comforts, one may make his living conditions very pleasing for the senses. But despite all favorable conditions, one must, in due course of time, meet death. The members of a demoniac civilization endeavor to make their living conditions very comfortable, but they cannot check that the influence of the Sudarshan Chakra will not allow their so-called material happiness to endure. So from the description in the previous verse, it seems like the residents of the lower planets are actually more. It even seems like they are even more powerful than those in the middle or upper planetary systems. But regardless of what it may seem externally, but the laws are the same for all. Everyone have to go through this Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. So even those residents of the lower planetary systems, even they are not exempted from this law, regardless of the amount of material opulence and sense gratification that they get to enjoy in those regions. But the saddest part is that no matter how many births they get to take in the lower planetary systems, uh, their condition is such that uh, they may not be fortunate enough to even inquire about their suffering. They'll be so blinded by the sheer abundance of material opulence in those regions. When the Sudarshana Chakra enters those provinces, the pregnant wives of the demons all have miscarriages due to fear of its effulgence. So, no matter what, though it may seem like the residents of the lower planetary systems are even more powerful or more advanced compared to the middle and upper planetary systems, but uh, they also have to, they are also stuck in the cycle. So previously we saw like a very general descriptions of the uh, subterranean region. So now we'll be looking at the descriptions of each of the planets, starting from Atala. Um, so Atala is the topmost of the 7 lower planetary systems. So there's this chief of the Atala planet called Bala, son of Maya Danava. In the Atala planet, uh, there are 3 kinds of women who are used to uh, actually this chief of the Atala planet. He has made the planet in such a way where those who enter that planet will be entrapped by these 3 types of women, and uh, they get to enjoy unlimited amount of sense gratification. Then below Atala is Vitala, uh, guarded by Lord Shiva. So there's this Hataki river in this Vitala planet. This river is actually created by the vital fluid of both Shiva and his wife. So that river is capable of producing this Hataka gold. When the vital fluid is taken from the river, and when it's heated up, it can actually be converted into gold, and that gold is used by the residents of the Vitala planet for their as their ornaments. So even in these 2 planets, we can see how there is abundant there's abundant amount of sense gratification and material opulence. Then the third planet is Stula, which is the abode of Bali Maharaj. It was awarded to him by the Supreme Lord for his devotion. So in the Vamanadev pastime, we saw that when Vamanadev transformed to the Trivikrama form, he put his leg on the head of Bali Maharaj, and then he was sent to this Sutala planet. So one may ask why this Bali Maharaj was actually sent to the lower planet, but we'll be looking at that in the final part of this session. So actually, apart from these descriptions of all these planets, the bhakti aspect of this is the most important. So we'll be looking at that later towards the end. Then the fourth one is Tala Tala, where Maya Danava is the chief. So he's the Acharya of all the Mayavis who can invoke the powers of sorcery. Lord Shiva actually destroyed his three kingdoms of this Maya Danava. So since Lord Shiva destroyed the three kingdoms of Maya Danava, so he is also known as Tripurari. But later, after being pleased by his service, Lord Shiva granted his wish to protect Maya Danava. Then the fifth planet, Mahatala, it's guarded or led by prominent snakes like Kuvaka, Takshaka, Kalia, and Shena. It is the abode of snakes, and they all they have this fear of Garuda, but still, since their position is such in the subterranean region, still they are like blinded by the opulence of the region, and they kind of forget the danger of Garuda. So it is explained in the purport of this verse that even conditioned souls in the earth planet, especially human beings, can also be equated to the snakes of Matala, because the snakes of Matala are also aware about the danger of Garuda, but they are still like blinded by the material opulence and sense radiation in their region, to the point where they actually forget this looming danger of Garuda. Similarly, even we as conditioned souls, we also tend to forget that we are caught in this repeated cycle of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. So, but at least we being in this middle region, we are still more fortunate than those residents of the lower planetary system. Then Rasatala is the abode of the demoniac sons of Diti and Danu. And even these residents of Rasatala, they even came from Mahatala. When there was danger in Mahatala, then they actually came to occupy this Rasatala. Then the last or the lowest planet of the seven lower planetary systems is Patala, also known as Nagaloka. The chief of this planet is the serpent Vasuki. It's the abode of demoniac serpents who are all extremely angry, and they have many hoods. Some snakes, 5 hoods, some 7, some 10, others 100, and others 1,000. These hoods are bedecked with valuable gems, and the light emanating from the gems illuminates the entire planetary system of Bilaswarga. So we saw that earlier it was explained that the sunlight does not enter this subterranean region of the 7 lower planetary systems, and therefore still the residents of these lower planets, they are able to enjoy merely from this illumination of the jewels that are available in the Bilaswarga region. So actually in the 5th canto, chapter 24 is about these subterranean heavenly planets, or these lower planetary systems, and the chapter ends with this verse 31 with the description of Patala Loka. So that's all for this description of the lower planetary systems, but there are also other related aspects which have to be studied, especially the bhakti aspect of it. So we have also seen from the Gita, especially in chapter 14, on the modes of material nature. It uh, it has been stated that those who die in the mode of goodness attain to the pure higher planets of the great sages. When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities, like how we have ended up in this Earth planet as human beings. So uh, our current position is because we were predominantly in the mode of passion. So we, by default, human beings who are born in this Earth planet are all predominantly in the mode of passion, but we still have to slowly develop the mode of goodness and even transcend that to achieve pure goodness. When one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. Some people have the impression that when the soul reaches the platform of human life, it never goes down again. This is incorrect. According to this verse, if one develops the mode of ignorance after his death, he is degraded to an animal form of life. From there, one has to again elevate himself by an evolutionary process to come again to the human form of life. Therefore, those who are actually serious about human life should take to the mode of goodness and in good association transcend the modes and become situated in Krishna consciousness. This is the aim of human life. Otherwise, there is no guarantee that the human being will again attain to the human status. So if we see even in this world, especially among not just non-devotees, particularly among these so-called atheists and rationalists who say that sometimes these people they proudly proclaim that I'm a pure non-vegetarian. So these people they have a million excuses to justify why they do that. Like sometimes they even come up with these points to debate about okay, why is it uh, why is it only a sin to kill animals for food? Even those who eat vegetables, even they are killing the plants. So for those people, actually all the answers are there in Gita, even is in chapter 9, especially in verses like 9.26 and 9.27. Even there are uh, more related explanation, uh, even from the third chapter itself, like from 3.9 to 3.14. But still, since they are all self-proclaimed intellectuals graduating from WhatsApp universities, so there's no chance for them to know those truths. And ironically, these are the same type of people who even ask, why, if Krishna is so merciful, why does he give the animal form of life to someone who was once a human being? So when you proudly proclaim that you are a pure non-vegetarian, so Krishna will also be very merciful towards you, and he will give you the animal form of life so that you can enjoy raw meat. So there's no need to enjoy this processed meat. So Krishna is actually being merciful by converting that person into animal form, so that such people can actually enjoy raw meat. So previously it was regarding the form of life. Now it is also stated in chapter 14 of the Gita regarding the destination in terms of the three divisions. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. In this verse, the results of actions in the three modes of nature are more explicitly set forth. There is an upper planetary system consisting of the heavenly planets where everyone is highly elevated. According to the degree of development of the mode of goodness, the living entity can be transferred to various planets in this system. The highest planet is Satyaloka or Brahmaloka, where the prime person of this universe, Lord Brahma, resides. We have seen already that we can hardly calculate the wondrous condition of life in Brahmaloka, but the highest condition of life, the mode of goodness, can bring us to this. So by default, human beings who are born in this Earth planet, we are predominantly in the mode of passion. So even if we elevate ourselves to the mode of goodness, like 100% goodness, we still have to move upwards to these upper planetary systems like Loka, Swargaloka, Marjana Tapa, or even Satyaloka. Even if we attain the position of Brahma, we still have to die after 311 trillion and 40 billion years, if I'm not mistaken, according to the Earth planet's calculation. So even Brahma has to die after 100 years of his calendar. So that is the condition even for those who have been able to cultivate the mode of goodness. So there's no need to ask regarding those who proudly proclaim to be pure non-vegetarians. The mode of passion is mixed. It is in the middle between the modes of goodness and ignorance. A person is not always pure, but even if he should be purely in the mode of passion, he will simply remain on this earth as a king or rich man. But because there are mixtures, one can also go down. People on this earth, in the mode of passion or ignorance, cannot possibly approach the higher planets by machine. In the mode of passion, there's also the chance of becoming mad in the next life. So, this being born as human beings in this Earth planet is actually a very it is a great opportunity because depending on how we choose to utilize it, because we can either elevate ourselves upwards, or if we choose to be self proclaimed intellectuals, then there is the great privilege of being degraded, and then even in the next birth, such people can continue to blame Krishna for everything, though it was because of their own doing. The lowest quality, the mode of ignorance, is described here as abominable. The result of developing ignorance is very, very risky. It is the lowest quality in material nature. Beneath the human level, there are 8 million species of life, birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. So this is referring to the 84 lakh species of material bodies. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to these abominable conditions. The word tamasa is very significant here. Tamasa indicates those who stay continuously in the mode of ignorance without rising to a higher mode. Their future is very dark. There is an opportunity for men in the modes of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness, and that system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower modes. So it is entirely up to us, since we are in the middle. We are like by default, we have we are predominantly in the mode of passion. So it is entirely up to us whether we want to make use of the association of devotees and elevate ourselves upwards, or if we want to simply appear to be like so-called intellectuals and degrade ourselves to the lower modes. It's entirely up to us. So this was just regarding how the modes influence our destination. So those who enter the lower planetary systems are obviously uh, those who do not care to develop the mode of goodness. Like for for a person who has been born as a human being in this Earth planet, if that person is finds himself in the lower planetary systems in the next birth, then it simply means that such a person has actually wasted his human form of life. Therefore, he'll be getting a more degraded position, and being born in the lower planetary system is also like a blessing, in the sense that that person who wanted to waste his human form of life by completely forgetting Krishna will also get the opportunity to even be far away from the association of devotees. So there will be no risk of being uh, getting acquainted to Krishna consciousness. So that is the condition in the lower planetary systems. So actually, Krishna is being very merciful, and he grants our wish according to our uh, completely according to our will. So if we choose to waste this human form of life, and if we choose to live like animals, so he will grant us the animal form of life in the lower planets, so that we can continue to enjoy material opulence and sense gratification uh, in such a way that we will not be we will never even have any spark of thought about Krishna. So Krishna even facilitates that type of human beings. But those who are caught in such degraded positions, later they'll still be blaming Krishna for everything, for even for what they have done. So this is just regarding how the modes influence our destinations. So it is best for us, since we have been, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have got this exposure to Krishna consciousness. So it is best if we make the most out of it, and elevate ourselves to the mode of pure goodness, not merely goodness, but to pure goodness, to enter the spiritual world, even beyond the upper planetary systems. Now, regarding the devotion of Bali Maharaj, uh, so we saw the description regarding the Stula planet, which is the abode of Bali Maharaj. So there, apart from, if we look at the verses starting from verse number 16 in this chapter, chapter 24 of the 5th canto, uh, they are like just single verses to describe all the planets. But only when it comes to this Sutala planet, uh, there are about 10 or 11 verses regarding this Sutala planet, because it talks about Bali Maharaj. So this is the uh, creamiest part of this chapter, because it deals with the bhakti aspect of it. Below the planet Vitala is another planet known as Sutala, where the great son of Maharaj Virochana, Bali Maharaj. Maharaj Virochana is the son of Prahlad Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj, the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, resides in the Sutala planet. For the welfare of Indra, Lord Vishnu appeared in the form of a dwarf brahmachari as the son of Aditi, and tricked Bali Maharaj by begging for only 3 paces of land, but taking all the 3 worlds. Being very pleased with Bali Maharaj for giving all his possessions, the Lord returned his kingdom and made him richer than the opulent King Indra. Even now, Bali Maharaj engages in devotional service by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the planet of Sutala. So when Bali Maharaj actually captured the heavenly planets, and he gained power of the 3 worlds, so at that time, Vamanadev descended to actually help Indra regain the kingdom. So that's when Bali Maharaj actually lost whatever he won from the previous battle, and he was sent to the Sutala planet as a reward. But actually, the Sutala planet was created like uh, Swargaloka itself. in terms of material opulence. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as Uttama Loka, he who is worshipped by the best of selected Sanskrit verses, and his devotees, such as Bali Maharaj, are also worshipped by Punya Loka, verses that increase one's piety. So, if we observe carefully, the Bhagavatam is not merely about the Supreme Lord, it is more about the interaction between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Bali Maharaj offered everything to the Lord. The Lord appeared before Bali Maharaj as a Brahmana beggar, and Bali Maharaj gave him everything he had. However, Bali Maharaj did not become poor by donating all his possessions to the Supreme Lord. He became a successful devotee and got everything back again with the blessings of the Lord. So even when Bali Maharaj was like condemned to the Sutala planet, though it appears to be a lower planet, but still that Sutala planet has been decorated with abundant material opulence, even to rival Swargaloka of Indra. So those who give contributions to expand the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement and to accomplish its objectives will never be losers. They will get their wealth back with the blessings of Lord Krishna. On the other side, those who collect contributions on behalf of ISKCON should be very careful not to use even a farthing of the collection for any purpose other than the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Regardless of whether we give to Krishna to get it back or what, we should be aware of the fact that whatever material wealth that we have in this world, especially in this birth, will all disappear at some point. I mean, not to say disappear, we cannot really take it with us. Even this week in the Bhagavatam class, we saw this story narrated by in YouTube. As I've shared the link, there's the story regarding this king who was completely unaware that he's going to meet death at a certain point of his life. So he was completely bathing in material opulence, and only when he was on his deathbed, he was wondering about how he's not going to be able to take anything with him. For us as devotees, we don't have to worry about are we going to get back anything material by donating to Krishna consciousness, because for any devotee who is truly intelligent will never think about material returns. What we should really worry about is to develop our spiritual opulence, because our main aim is to completely liberate ourselves from this material universe. So it is important for us to develop the mentality that only spiritual opulence matters. So it is best for devotees to donate for Krishna consciousness by completely being oblivious to whether they are going to be blessed with more material wealth or not. Bali Maharaj donated all his possessions to Vamanadev, but one should certainly not conclude that he achieved his great worldly opulence in Bilaswarga as a result of his charitable disposition. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of life for all living entities, lives within everyone as the friendly super soul, and under his direction, a living entity enjoys or suffers in the material world. Greatly appreciating the transcendental qualities of the Lord, Bali Maharaj offered everything at his lotus feet. His purpose, however, was not to gain anything material, but to become a pure devotee. So whatever we do, we should do it with this mindset of doing it as an offering to Krishna and be satisfied with whatever we get in return. But even that, we should be hoping for more opportunities of service. We should not give donations and expect that Krishna is going to multiply our material wealth. For pure devotee, the door of liberation is automatically open. One should not think that Bali Maharaj was given so much material opulence merely because of his charity. When one becomes a pure devotee in love, he may also be blessed with a good material position by the will of the Supreme Lord. However, one should not mistakenly think that the material opulence of a devotee is the result of his devotional service. The real result of devotional service is the awakening of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which continues under all circumstances. If one who is embarrassed by hunger or who falls down or stumbles chants the holy name of the Lord even once, willingly or unwillingly, he is immediately freed from the reactions of his past deeds. Karmis entangled in material activities face many difficulties in the practice of mystic yoga and other endeavors to achieve that same freedom. So, when we engage in bhakti, the correct mindset is to offer everything to Krishna and only hope for the eternal servitorship. We should only expect that we get to become eternal servants of Krishna in the spiritual world, because nothing matches in front of the nothing matches the spiritual opulence of the spiritual world. So we should not really give donations and expect that Krishna would multiply our material wealth, which is useless, because as long as we are trapped in this cycle, nothing matters ultimately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart as the Super Soul, sells himself to his devotees, such as another Muni. In other words, the Lord gives pure love to such devotees and gives himself to those who love him purely. Great self-realized mystic yogis, such as the four Kumaras, also derive great transcendental bliss from realizing the super soul within themselves. So we have so many examples of such devotees who have been showered with love by the Supreme Lord, whether it's Narada Muni, the four Kumaras, or even Hanuman, Arjuna, Prahlad Maharaj. There are so many examples from the Bhagavatam. However, it should be noted that those devotees, they were able to receive such love from the Supreme Lord because of the magnitude of their devotion. The Supreme Personality of Godhead did not award his mercy to Bali Maharaj by giving him material happiness and opulence, for these make one forget loving service to the Lord. The result of material opulence is that one can no longer absorb his mind in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, for those who are caught in the lower planetary systems, though the lower planets appear to be materially opulent, but the real curse lies in the fact that they will be become totally forgetful in matters of Krishna consciousness. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead could see no other means of taking everything away from Bali Maharaj, he adopted the trick of begging from him and took away all the three worlds. Thus, only his body was left, but the Lord was still not satisfied. He arrested Bali Maharaj, bound him with the ropes of Varuna, and threw him in a cave in a mountain. Nevertheless, although all his property was taken and he was thrown into a cave, Bali Maharaj was such a great devotee that he spoke as follows. Alas, how pitiable it is for Indra, the king of heaven, that although he is very learned and powerful, and although he chose Brihaspati as his prime minister to instruct him, he is completely ignorant concerning spiritual advancement. Brihaspati is also unintelligent because he did not properly instruct his disciple Indra. Lord Vamanadev was standing at Indra's door, but King Indra, instead of begging him for an opportunity to render transcendental loving service, engaged him in asking me for alms to gain the three worlds for his sense gratification. Sovereignty over the three worlds is very insignificant because whatever material opulence one may possess lasts only for an age of Manu, which is but a tiny fraction of endless time. So from this one verse itself, we can see how the exaltedness of Bali Maharaj, regardless of the fact that he was born in the demoniac family. but we can even see him as Prahlad Maharaj 2.0, for example, because it is clearly explained in this verse that Vamanadev descended to grab everything from Bali Maharaj to be returned to Indra. So actually, Indra had complained to the Supreme Lord to regain his kingdom back, to regain Swargaloka. But here, Bali Maharaj is actually highlighting that Indra has been uh, foolish for not asking Vamanadev uh, to engage him in devotional service. Instead, Indra was kind of obsessed with regaining his material opulence. So, from this one verse itself, we can see how how Bali Maharaj is actually in a much more elevated position compared to Indra. So Indra was merely focused on regaining his kingdom to enjoy material opulence. But Bali Maharaj, when he surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, he could see that he was in a much more fortunate position despite losing all his material opulences. Bali Maharaj said, "My grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, is the only person who understood his own self-interest. Upon the death of Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu, Lord Narasimhadev wanted to offer Prahlad his father's kingdom and even wanted to grant him liberation from material bondage. But Prahlad accepted neither. Liberation and material opulence, he thought, are obstacles to devotional service, and therefore such gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not his actual mercy. Consequently, instead of accepting the results of karma and jnana, Prahlad Maharaj simply begged the Lord for engagement in the service of his servant. So Bali Maharaj is actually reaping the fruits of being born as the grandson of a great devotee like Prahlad Maharaj. He even had this consciousness to realize that he is still in a very fortunate position despite losing all his material opulence. Bali Maharaj said, persons like us who are still attached to material enjoyment, who are contaminated by the modes of material nature, and who lack the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot follow the supreme path of Prahlad Maharaj, the exalted devotee of the Lord. Sukadev Goswami continued, my dear king, how shall I glorify the character of Bali Maharaj, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of the three worlds, who is most compassionate to his own devotee, stands with club in hand at Bali Maharaj's door. When Ravana, the powerful demon, came to gain victory over Bali Maharaj, Vamanadev kicked him a distance of 80,000 miles with his big toe. I shall explain the character and activities of Bali Maharaj later in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, the detailed description regarding this entire Vamanadev pastime and also about Bali Maharaj is there in the 8th canto. But for those who may be wondering that since Bali Maharaj was such a great devotee, why did he end up in Sutala, which is a lower planet? Actually, it is like a temporary abode. The planet Sutala has been designed to even rival Swargaloka. So Bali Maharaj is still has still been awarded with a very opulent kingdom in the Sutala planet, and later he will be taking up the position of Indra. He will become the next Indra, and at that time he'll regain the Swargaloka. However, we should always understand that regardless of whether we enjoy material opulence, whether we get to enjoy material opulence in the lower planet or upper planet, as long as we are caught in this material universe, we'll still be entangled in this repeated cycle of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. So even in the case of Bali Maharaj, he is though he is there in the Sutala planet and there's so much material opulence for him to enjoy, he is still engaged in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even when he becomes the next Indra, and if he continues to worship the Supreme Lord, just like Brahma, then he will also attain the spiritual world. And therefore, we should also follow all these examples and completely be convinced that we should develop utter disregard to material opulence. Only then we can be fully absorbed in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, so that we can go to Goloka, back to Godhead. So that's all for today's session on the lower planetary systems. So in short, we saw that being caught in the lower planetary system completely takes us far away from Krishna consciousness. So since we have been blessed with this human form of life in this Earth planet, a position which has been acknowledged by Brahma and the demigods also. So it is best that we make the most out of this birth, so that we can attain the spiritual world. So we saw that Patala Loka is actually the lowest planet in the lower planetary system. But even in the lowest region of Patala Loka, there are these Naraka Lokas, the 28 hellish planets. So we will be looking at the description of those planets from chapter 26 of Canto 5. So our next session will be on the description of hellish planets. So that's all for today. Thanks for attending. Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, have a great explanation.
Okay, thank you. So if there are no questions, thanks for attending, and we'll meet again next week.